In 1989, a tour bus carrying 23 people left Las Vegas for the Grand Canyon. It never arrived. No wreckage, no bodies, no explanation, just 23 people in a 40-foot bus that seemed to evaporate in the Mojave Desert. Search teams scoured hundreds of square miles. Helicopters traced every known route. Nothing. For 35 years, families wondered if their loved ones had somehow survived, were being held somewhere, had started new lives. Then, in March 2024, the worst sandstorm in decades swept through the desert, stripping away layers of earth that had been undisturbed since the 80s. What it revealed changed everything investigators thought they knew about that September day. September 15, 1989. Location: Las Vegas, Nevada, Desert Dreams Tour Company. The morning was already hot at 7 a.m. when passengers began boarding the silver tour bus outside the Flamingo Hotel. Desert Dreams Tours ran daily trips to the Grand Canyon, their buses clean, drivers experienced, safety record perfect. Until today. Driver Eddie Vance, 58, had driven this route for 12 years. He knew every mile marker, every rest stop, every patch of rough road. He helped elderly passengers with their bags, joked with the kids, assured nervous flyers who'd chosen the bus that this was much safer than those little planes. The passengers were a mix typical for these tours. The Morrison family from Ohio, parents Bob and Janet, kids Tyler and Emma, 3 couples celebrating anniversaries, 5 college friends from UCLA on a weekend trip, an elderly church group from Phoenix, Sarah Chen, a travel blogger documenting Route 66, Marcus Webb, a photographer hunting desert landscapes. The last person to board was Jennifer Price, 24, backpacking solo across America. She almost didn't make it, running up just as Eddie was about to close the doors. "Room for one more?" she had asked, breathless. Eddie had smiled, checked his manifest. 1 seat left, all the way in the back. They pulled out at 7:23 a.m. The Flamingo's security cameras caught the bus merging onto Highway 95, heading north. Everything normal, everything routine. The last confirmed sighting was at 8:47 a.m. at the Indian Springs gas station. Eddie topped off the tank while passengers used restrooms and bought snacks. The station owner, Carl Murphy, remembered Eddie buying his usual, black coffee and a honey bun. "See you on the way back," Eddie had said. Carl never saw him again. September 15, 1989. 2 p.m. Location: Grand Canyon South Rim Visitor Center. Desert Dreams Tours called the park rangers at 2 p.m. The bus was 2 hours overdue. Not unheard of. Breakdowns happened. Flat tires were common on desert roads. But Eddie always radioed in delays. His CB had been silent since the routine check-in at 9 a.m., somewhere near Mercury. By 4 p.m., with no contact and no bus, Nevada Highway Patrol launched a search. The route from Vegas to the Grand Canyon was well-traveled but surrounded by vast emptiness. If the bus had broken down, someone would have seen it. If it had crashed, there would be wreckage. Rangers found nothing on the main highway. No skid marks, no debris, no witnesses who'd seen the distinctive silver bus after Indian Springs. It was as if it had driven into the desert and dissolved. September 16th to 30th, 1989. The search. The search became one of the largest in Nevada history. National Guard helicopters flew grid patterns. Search and rescue teams covered hundreds of square miles. Volunteers on ATVs checked every ravine and wash. The theory was the bus had somehow left the highway. Maybe Eddie had a medical emergency, became disoriented, driven into the desert. But there were no tracks. Desert soil holds tire impressions for years, yet nowhere did searchers find the distinctive tread pattern of bus tires leaving the asphalt. The FBI joined the investigation, considering hijacking, but there'd been no ransom demands. Families arrived in Las Vegas, desperate for news. Bob Morrison spent his life savings hiring private helicopters. Sarah Chen's editor at Travel Plus Leisure funded additional searches. The church group from Phoenix held prayer vigils at the last place the bus was seen. Psychics claimed visions. The bus was in Mexico. The passengers were in underground bunkers. Aliens had taken them. None led anywhere. After 3 weeks, the official search was suspended. The bus and its 23 occupants were simply gone. October 1989 to February 2024. 35 years of questions. Theories multiplied over the decades. The most popular was that Eddie, facing financial problems no one knew about, had arranged for the bus to disappear, selling the passengers into trafficking. But investigation into Eddie's life revealed a devoted grandfather with no debts, no secrets, no motive. Others believed the government was involved. The bus route passed near Area 51 and the Nevada test site. Maybe they'd seen something classified, been eliminated. But no evidence supported this beyond proximity to restricted areas. Some families never gave up hope. Jennifer Price's mother kept Jennifer's room exactly as she'd left it. The Morrison children's grandparents raised money for continued searches every anniversary. The UCLA Friends families formed a support group that met monthly for 15 years. In 2010, a documentary titled Desert Dreams: The Bus That Vanished renewed interest. Tips poured in, all false. In 2018, a YouTuber claimed to have found the bus using Google Earth, but it turned out to be an abandoned vehicle from the 40s. As years passed, hope faded. Parents died without answers, siblings moved on. The missing became statistics, their faces frozen in 1989 on faded missing posters in truck stops across Nevada. March 12, 2024. Location: Mojave Desert, 47 miles southwest of Indian Springs. The sandstorm started March 10th and lasted 60 hours. Winds reached 90 miles per hour, stripping away tons of sand and soil, reshaping dunes, exposing bedrock that hadn't seen sun since the Reagan administration. It was the kind of storm that made news worldwide, shutting down highways, grounding flights, turning day into night. When it finally passed, Jake Patterson was flying his drone over the desert, documenting the storm's aftermath for his geology blog. The landscape had transformed. New canyons carved, old ones filled, entire valley floors scraped clean. At coordinates that meant nothing to him, his drone's camera caught something metallic reflecting the morning sun. Jake zoomed in. It looked like a roof, maybe an old trailer, but as he flew lower, he saw windows, rows of them. His heart rate spiked. He guided the drone around the object. It was a bus buried nose down in what had been a massive sand dune, now exposed by the storm. Jake landed the drone, marked the GPS coordinates, and called 911. March 13, 2024, 6 a.m. Location: the site. Sheriff Diana Morrison, no relation to the missing family, arrived with a full forensics team. The bus was buried at a 40-degree angle, its front end deep in the sand, rear emergency door just visible. The silver paint was sandblasted but readable. Desert Dreams Tours. The excavation took 18 hours. Carefully, respectfully, they cleared sand that had been packed solid by 35 years of pressure. The windows were intact but opaque with scratches. The doors were sealed shut by sand compressed into concrete hardness. When they finally breached the rear emergency exit, the smell hit them. Not decay. The desert had mummified everything. But staleness, trapped air from 1989, the ghost of Eddie's coffee, someone's perfume. Fear sweat dried into dust. Inside was a tomb. March 14, 2024. Location: the bus interior. The passengers were in their seats, naturally mummified by the desert conditions. The dry heat and sand had preserved them like ancient Egyptian remains. Some still wore seatbelts. Others had clearly tried to escape, fingernails embedded in window frames, fists bloody from pounding on glass. Eddie Vance was at the wheel, hands still gripping it. His eyes were gone, dissolved or eaten by insects long ago, but his expression remained, mouth open in what might have been a shout or scream. The Morrison family was together in rows 4 and 5. Bob's arm was around Janet. Tyler had been trying to protect Emma, his body shielding hers. The UCLA friends were scattered, some in the aisle, having tried to reach the emergency exit. Sarah Chen's camera was around her neck, its film intact. But it was what investigators found in the front stairwell that changed everything. Another body. Not a passenger. A man in military fatigues, no identification, a pistol in his hand. He'd been shot twice in the chest. The bullets matched the gun. March 15, 2024. Location: Nevada State Crime Lab. Sarah Chen's camera film survived. 35-year-old Kodak gold, preserved by the dark, dry conditions. The lab developed it carefully. The photos told a story. Normal tourist shots at first. Vegas lights, sunrise over the desert, passengers laughing. Then, the final 3 frames, taken in quick succession. Frame 34. The bus interior. Everyone turned toward the front, expressions confused. Frame 35. A man in military uniform standing in the aisle, pointing a gun. Frame 36. Blurred motion, the camera dropping. Jennifer Price had kept a journal found in her backpack. The last entry, written in shaky handwriting: "Man stopped bus. Says we saw something we shouldn't have. Eddie trying to reason with him. He's forcing us off the highway into the desert. We're going to die here. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry I didn't call more." The military man remained unidentified. No fingerprints on record, dental work not in any database. But investigation revealed the truth. On September 15, 1989, at 9:43 a.m., a classified military transport had crashed 12 miles from Highway 95. The cargo, experimental weapons that officially didn't exist. A recovery team was deployed immediately to secure the site before civilians could see it. The tour bus had taken an unexpected detour. Eddie knew a scenic route through the desert, decided to surprise his passengers. They'd driven directly past the crash site, 23 civilians with cameras seeing something that absolutely could not be seen. One soldier had been assigned to stop them. The plan, investigators theorized, was to detain them until decisions could be made. But something went wrong. Maybe Eddie resisted. Maybe passengers panicked. The soldier forced them into a box canyon to contain them, but the sand was softer than it looked. The bus sank quickly, like it had driven into quicksand. In the chaos, someone, they'd never know who, got the soldier's gun and shot him. But it was too late. The bus was trapped, sliding deeper with every attempt to escape. The sand rose like water, covering the windows, sealing the doors. Based on positions of bodies, they'd had maybe 10 minutes before the air ran out. March 20th, 2024. Location: Las Vegas Memorial Cemetery. 23 bodies finally came home. The military quietly settled with families, 9-figure payments with ironclad NDAs. The official story: mechanical failure led the bus into unstable sand. A tragedy, nothing more. But Sarah Chen's photos had already leaked online. Jennifer Price's journal pages circulated on Reddit. Marcus Webb's final photograph, developed from film in his pocket, showed the soldier pointing his gun at Eddie, impossible to deny or explain away. The truth, or versions of it, spread faster than denials. The government held a closed Senate hearing. 3 generals resigned. A monument was approved, not admitting fault, but honoring those lost in service to their country, a phrase that enraged families who knew their loved ones died as innocent tourists. Eddie Vance was buried with full honors, the driver who'd tried to save his passengers. His CB radio, recovered from the bus, had one more message, recorded on the emergency channel. "Desert Dreams Tour 47, 23 souls. Tell our families we tried." His widow, Marion, 91 now, finally had closure. The Morrison family had a joint funeral in Ohio. 2,000 people attended. Emma's teddy bear, still clutched in her mummified arms, was buried with her. Tyler's school ring, mentioned in Jennifer's journal, was returned to his girlfriend, now a grandmother who'd never married. The UCLA friends were memorialized with a scholarship fund that still sends 5 students to college every year. The church group from Phoenix had a special service where their hymnal, found on the bus, was retired with honors. Sarah Chen's blog published her final post posthumously, photos of happy passengers, unaware they had 3 hours to live. Her editor at Travel Plus Leisure created an award in her name for brave journalism. Jennifer Price's mother, now 78, stood at her daughter's grave holding the journal that had survived 35 years in the desert. "She just wanted adventure," she told reporters. "She got it, just not the kind any of us imagined. But she documented it. She made sure we'd know. That was my Jenny, brave to the end." Marcus Webb's photographs, including rolls found in his camera bag, were displayed at the Getty Museum. Titled "Last Journey, the Desert Dreams Exhibition," it showed the progression from joy to horror in 36 frames. April 2024. Location: the memorial site. The bus itself was returned to the desert, to the exact spot where it was found, and turned into a memorial. A plaque lists the names of the 23 who disappeared on a sunny September morning, whose fate was hidden under sand and secrets for 35 years. But there's another plaque, smaller, added by families. They saw what they weren't meant to see. They died where they weren't meant to be. They were found when nature decreed. 23 souls, finally freed. September 15th, 1989, March 13th, 2024. The site has become a pilgrimage. Families leave flowers, which the desert wind scatters within hours. But they keep coming, drawn to the spot where a tour bus full of tourists saw something they shouldn't have, where the earth itself became their grave, where the truth waited patient as stone until a storm strong enough finally came to reveal it. Every September 15th at 9:43 a.m., the exact time of the military crash, a moment of silence is observed. Veterans often attend, removing their caps, saluting the dead civilians who were casualties of a war that wasn't a war, victims of secrets that couldn't be kept. The military never officially comments on visits to the memorial, but locals say on certain nights, unmarked vehicles parked nearby, their occupants standing silent in the darkness, watching, remembering, making sure some secrets stay buried even when the sand won't cooperate. And sometimes, truckers on Highway 95 report seeing a silver bus in their mirrors, following for a mile or two before vanishing. Always at dawn, always heading toward the Grand Canyon, always full of passengers who wave and smile, as if they're still on their way to somewhere beautiful, as if they don't know they never arrived.